Hello and welcome to the Aviation Briefing with me, William Hallowell. In this podcast series, I speak with media and industry guests about the biggest topics and stories in aviation. Today, I'm joined by Shub Powell, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Simply Flying. And we're going to be covering, it seems, a developing story that's come out of the UK this week. The consumer watchdog, which has released a report saying that there's a rise in scammers targeting airline customers through social media. So firstly, Shub, thank you very much for joining me today.
Very happy to be here, William.
Let's start from the beginning. So, Which came out and released a report this week saying, look, there's a rise in scammers targeting airline customers with fake social media accounts through X, obviously formerly Twitter. And it looks essentially that they're trying to steal personal information. Apparently, bots, which are obviously automated technology, are being used by fraudsters to imitate the airline customer service accounts. Obviously, reportedly that they are copying exactly what these customer service accounts are saying and trying to get information such as phone numbers, email addresses, that sort of thing. Can you give a bit of an overview of what exactly we know so far?
Sure. I mean, honestly, there are multiple scams out there, but the most popular one these days seems to be where scammers set up fake Twitter accounts, also known as X these days, but I don't know of anyone who actually calls it X. They will set up these not fake looking, they set up genuine looking fake accounts so that gullible customers who are maybe not as digitally aware as many others are, fall prey to these accounts. So these could be as simple as, say X airline, right? X airline will have a customer service account which is actually legitimate, saying X airline cares, but these airline scammers will actually set up accounts that look eerily similar to the official accounts. And then what sets them apart is that they tend to be often speedier than the real accounts in responding to customers who have genuine queries. And they probably set up some kind of filter to see conversations coming in for that specific airline, and they're ready to jump, at any gullible customer who's willing to, share their information. So a customer might say, "Oh, it seems my flight has been delayed, and what options do I have?" And immediately this fake account jumps in and says, look, don't worry, we're here to help you. Why don't you DM us? So that's where the shift happens from public. They will take the conversation private. And in the private conversation, they will say things like, yes, please share with us your PNR, your email address, your phone number, give us more details. Oh, you know what? Yes, it's been delayed. What we can do is, for a very minor cost of, and this is only one type of scam. There are multiple kinds of things that they can do. One type of scam could be saying, oh, it's been delayed. We're very sorry for the inconvenience, but for the minor cost of, say, $10 or for $50, we will shift you to a much better flight. Maybe we will even give you an upgrade. We'll throw in an upgrade for you, and that you stand to benefit from this. We're really, really sorry. And X Airways is always looking after its customers. So here's something from our side. And the customer actually thinks, that they're getting a good deal out of it. But that's not really the case. And then what they do is they end up sometimes also giving up their credit card information, which of course is super risky, right? And that's how the scam starts, and that's how it proliferates. The issue here is, first, these scam accounts will look almost indistinguishable from official accounts, except for discerning viewers who can actually say that, this doesn't have a blue tick or a golden tick. They will adopt a very professional tone. And third is speed or agility. They will always be faster in general than the official accounts in responding. And that's how customers fall trapped to these accounts.
Yeah, my understanding is that they are using tools like obviously the blue tick feature and all that sort of thing to appear official. Obviously, the user tag is obviously going to play a part in that. My
Yes.
understanding is that this information is being used to potentially commit identity fraud or even sell on to other criminals. In some cases, customers are being directed via DM to click on links to phishing websites, like you say, to harvest card details. They're even told that they're entitled to compensation or even encouraged to download these payment apps where obviously this sort of information can be harvested. And it also seems quite a widespread issue at the moment. Apparently, it's affecting all major UK airlines. that includes British Airways, EasyJet, Jet2, Ryanair, TUI, Virgin Atlantic, and Wizz Air, which are, some of the most popular airlines in the UK, which surely leaves thousands of passengers susceptible to these sorts of things. So firstly, do we know how many sorts of passengers we're talking about that could be affected by these scams?
Look, just for some context, we've been in the industry for about 15 years, and Simplifying has been in the digital transformation and now in the sustainability space. But scams are not new. I'm going to take a little bit of a light track on this. Because it's so easy to sort of change details of an airline booking, that's where we feel some of the fundamental issue lies. For instance, we used to have a laugh back in the day, say 10 years ago, when we used to, a friend is flying off and you want to have a joke at their expense, you'd call up the customer care. You tell them, oh, why don't you send me a copy of your booking? We'll come see you off at the airport. And then you'd call up the customer service rep, say that this is my PNR. I am Mr. John Smith, even though I'm not Mr. John Smith. This is my PNR. This is my last name. I would like to cancel and get a refund on my booking. And that's as simple as it was to get a booking canceled, even though you're not flying that actual flight. So at the basic level, we've seen minor to major scams happening throughout the globe. It's not just, not just the UK. We've seen it happening in the US. We've seen it happening in India. In India, in fact, prominent companies, insurance companies, banking companies, all that are related in some ways to airline transactions have put up pages on their website advising customers in terms of how they should interact with airline customer service, airlines themselves. Because at the fundamental level, in many airlines, we personally strongly believe that authentication and security isn't that strong, and customers are just used to giving up their PNR numbers, their last name, so on and so forth. And that can cause, a scenario that's ripe for exploitation. The second issue, of course, is it's really hard to say how many customers are affected, because until someone actually reports a crime, has a crime actually happened? And that sometimes, if the scam is at a very low level, as you said, people might simply just take your phone number and harvest them for money. They can just sell off phone numbers for money. And that's not really a scam according to the customer themselves, because they don't know that they've been scammed. They don't know that their emails have been sold off or their phone numbers have been sold off. A higher level scam is, of course, where a customer might find that someone has taken their credit card details and scraped maybe 10 or $20. Again, in many cases, customers will just let it go unless it's a very, very, someone who cares a lot, and then they will call up their bank and say, we've, lost 10 or 20 pounds. But nobody really, I would say half of them would probably just let it go and say, oops, we were scammed. So it's really hard to estimate. Our estimate is that the number of reports of scams are probably off by maybe, the number of scams probably are at least 3 to 4 times higher than the number of reported ones, because the kind and nature and degree of scam is what ensures reporting, whereas the scams itself can be of a lower degree.
I suppose one element that kind of sticks out to me is, I've never really tried to contact a company, never mind an airline, via social media. I would always try to go through, I suppose, the official channels on their website, whether that's an email address or a phone number. And we'll get on to that sort of element in terms of, what customers can do to protect themselves later on. But do we know how airlines have responded to this so far?
Well, to be honest, we've been reading reports of airlines taking more proactive measures. Of some airlines, we believe, have implemented stronger authentication for their customer service channels, where you can't really just give a booking and a name and get your booking cancelled. For instance, you probably need to provide some more personal information that is specific to your booking or to yourself. So it's no longer as easy to get your booking cancelled if a scammer wants to do that, for instance. I believe a number of airlines recently issued statements. We've been reading about them saying that, we have proactively issued messages and emails and tried to create some sort of awareness amongst customers to be wary of such scams. And I think in such a scenario, there is only 2 things that an airline can actually do. They can inform customers that scams are happening, They can probably proactively, a lot of them have gone and tried to find fake accounts that are similar to their own accounts and report them to X, Twitter, Facebook, wherever, and it's mostly Twitter. And the third thing they can do is create some sort of more stringent authentication requirements for their own platforms. Broadly speaking, though, that's what airlines can do. But at the end of the day, from a broader holistic perspective, one has to consider that the world of digital living is susceptible to crime. And I was reading somewhere that by 2028 or so, about $10 trillion worth of scams, fraud, so on and so forth will have been committed annually by then. So I mean, if we can digress a little, I like to, we often, there's this framework that we talk about, which is, the three paradoxes of digital living. And the first is the middleman paradox. Digital media was supposed to make, not digital media itself, the digital world, the internet was supposed to take the middleman out of most transactions, right? Which it has in many cases. But in such cases where scams happen, it's easier for someone to become a middleman and sort of scam you. So that's the middleman paradox of the digital living. The second is what we call the visible world paradox. In the visible world paradox, things are much easier to find on the internet, but they're also easier to hide. So someone who's a thief or a scamster or a criminal finds it much easier to hide their footprints because digital media, not digital media, the internet, digital resources allow those kinds of hiding of footprints. And the third is what we call, and which customers fall prey to, is called the deals paradox. The internet gives a lot of great deals. There's cheaper stuff to find, but there's a lot of scammy stuff to also find. And how do you actually separate what's, the shaft from the grain? So, I mean, those are the three essential digital paradoxes that we're constantly living with every day, and we have to navigate it. And, it's a matter of both customers doing their bit as well as the companies and airlines doing their bit.
I suppose also one concerning element from the airlines perspective is that, like you said earlier on, because the scammers, the fraudsters are using bots to carry out these scams, they're actually quicker than the airline's customer service agents. So, if you're putting out a request, if you're trying to contact an airline because of a complaint or a query, you press post on the tweet or the X post, or like you say, I don't know if anybody calls it X, but and then instantly you get a response, or in a matter of seconds. The first thing that customer will then do is then reply instantly to that bot, thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is great customer service." They'll go to the DM and they'll kind of fall victim to it almost instantly because it's almost, they've had an instant response. So that must be also an element for airlines to have to navigate as well. It's not an issue that they can directly change, but what steps can they actually take beyond reporting these X accounts?
So, I mean, we've been having a lot of conversation with our clients, airlines, and we worked with over 120 of airlines, airports in the world. And some of the private conversations we've been having have basically amounted to this: airlines are gradually beginning to believe that X or Twitter is no longer the platform they want to continue providing customer service on. Some airlines have actively shut down their customer service accounts on Twitter and have broadcast this information to their customers. What they're trying to do is bring more and more customer service onto proprietary platforms like their own website, through chatbots, or through their own apps, which reduces the security risk and the privacy risk to their customers as well as to the airline. We feel this is likely to continue. It's a trend that we're likely to see happening because, for better or for worse, ever since the acquisition of Twitter and its sort of conversion to X, we have heard a lot of complaints about the proliferation of scammers, abusers, bots, so on and so forth. And many of our clients, many of our airline partners feel that, not enough has been done to crack down on criminals or criminality on such platforms. So in that case, the only resort remaining to airlines, especially those who can afford it and those who are keen to control the conversation, is probably to move off these platforms, broadcast this information widely, ensure that every customer knows this, and then own conversations on their own platforms, such as their apps, their websites, and any other platform they're choosing.
It's interesting that you mentioned that some airlines have already removed the customer service aspect from their social medias. My next question to you was going to be, look, how can airlines protect themselves? You know, what steps can they take? So the fact that that's already happening is interesting. So do you foresee then that this probably or could be an industry-wide thing where, you know, it's almost like the standard where the customer service element, and I suppose this goes beyond aviation as well. This probably goes for a number of different industries, because a lot of big corporations, a lot of companies do a lot of customer service through social media, be it X or Instagram or whichever platform they choose to use. You know, you foresee this potentially being removed as a whole element from airlines customer service. So it will go, like you say, to their apps or their, you know, websites that they own and that they operate directly.
We do believe it will happen for a number of airlines, but we don't see it, you know, going away completely, because airlines at the end of the day have to balance a number of factors, of which convenience for customers is a big part. And, you know, being on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, so on and so forth, is a matter of convenience for customers, and they find it really easy to just look up an account and just message them there. So while we are seeing a slight trend, I personally wouldn't be too confident that airlines will completely that all airlines will completely stop being there. In such a scenario, I would actually see them taking more proactive steps to, as I said, better authentication for their own customer service platforms, and probably a dedicated team for risk management and you know, scam detection. And third would be a more significant educational and informational effort made to let customers know that this is happening and this is what needs to be done. The example that we like giving to some of the airlines we speak to, some of our clients, is that you have to think of yourself, even if you're making one transaction, you have to think of yourself as a financial institution, in the sense that you have to think of yourself like a bank, and you have to take into account all potential risks, especially financial, that could befall you, that could befall your customers. So why don't you look to the banking industry for best practices in terms of preserving security, privacy? I mean, a bank doesn't go and say we're going to stop, you know, being in the business of money because you know, scammers are doing away with, you know, billions of dollars. Banks will just say we're going to make security better, we're going to educate customers better, and we're going to ensure that, you know, as much as possible criminality is reduced, even though it's inevitable. So we have to accept some of the bargains of being in this world, educate customers as best as possible, and then see what's best for us.
And from the customer's perspective, then, I mean, in your view, what steps should they be taking to protect themselves? Is it a case of, you know, going straight to the airline's website to find their official, you know, customer service helpline, or your, you know, email address as well? Should they just avoid using social media as a point of contact to these airlines, you know, as a whole?
I think there are a few ways to look at this. One is, we are quite confident that month by month, more and more customers are more and more aware of the perils of being on the internet and the potential for being scammed, especially coming from a country like India, where, you know, cybersecurity and cybercrime are, you know, a big deal. They, especially in a large population that's not very digitally literate, they tend to proliferate a lot. But even here, we are seeing that thanks to the efforts of the government as well, to ensure that, you know, there's a constant message sent out, there are public service advertisements, there are SMSs sent to the average consumer, so on and so forth. There are concerted efforts being made to educate customers to think twice before they conduct a digital transaction. I think that's the basis of being safe on the internet. To know, to protect the information, to not reveal the credit card details, and to think twice before conducting a transaction. That's the basis of it. And it's not just the airlines that have to do it, or not just the customers. As I said, governments themselves have to get involved to ensure that customers are not scammed. I'll give you a quick example of this. In India, there's a very popular cyber scam that's going on, in which a person will get a call saying, I'm from FedEx. Your parcel has been stopped at customs because So they will start by saying, you are Mr. So-and-so, this is your identification number, this is your phone number, and all of them will be correct. All those details will be accurate. I'm calling from FedEx. A parcel from yours has been stopped at customs because it was carrying drugs. In order to release that parcel and in order for us to not go through a tedious legal process, you have to transfer the fine amount to this account. And that's how the scam proliferated. Many people would freak out because, I've been caught with some parcel of mine has been caught with drugs. Even if they haven't really ordered anything, like maybe someone has sent me something, it's been caught. I will get into trouble with the authorities. The police will come and nab me, and they will pretend to be. FedEx will then connect them to another person saying, "I'm from the cyber cell of, say, Mumbai police. And yes, we have confirmed with FedEx that your package contains drugs. And you have to pay this amount. This is the website. Please go onto it and immediately." And people have been scammed of hundreds of thousands of dollars through this one single scam that now everyone knows of. So the government stepped in. They released a public service advisory. People received SMSs on their phone saying, please do not believe this, please do not believe this, so on and so forth. So we do believe that strong intervention from the authorities is also required.
It's interesting that you mentioned, the text message element. I think we've all received emails and text messages, telling us that, like you say, your parcel's gone missing, and you think, well, I haven't actually ordered a parcel. So you check the email address and it's something completely random. It's not from FedEx or the post office or wherever it is. But look, Shub, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been very interesting to get a bit more context and insight into, this potential rise in scams. And it'll be interesting to see how the airline industry tackles this going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope some of the insights were useful, and it was a pleasure speaking with you.
You too. Thank you very much. This has been the Aviation Briefing with William Hallowell.